Why do we always get the shit ones?
Well, you know, this was one of these things that we didn't want to just always do WWE, WWF, 3, 2, 1. I blame you for this one, actually.
Me? Why do we always get the shit ones? This one wasn't my idea.
Whose idea was it?
Yours.
Yeah. I'm going to have to take the blame for this one. I made him watch Slamboree 1993, and unfortunately, I also chose to watch Slamboree 1993. It's time for a retro wrestling review.
We did this for you. I hope you're happy.
Yeah. That's, oh, God. So this was the first ever Slamboree event. It was at the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia. Ironically enough, it was on a not-so-good day in wrestling history, May 23rd. Yep. Because it was 6 years later when Owen Hart tragically passed away. So, where do we begin with Slamboree 1993?
Oh, boy. You want to go ahead and start with the first random tag team match of the night?
You know, this is one of these situations where WCW, this is at a time where, 93, 94, the wrestling business was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And, you know, as much as I've crapped on WWF at that time in the past for a lot of reasons, WCW was god-awful in a lot of the things that they did, too. And this pay-per-view, to me, was a perfect example of that. I get the concept of wanting to bring in legends.
Wonderful idea. Bad execution.
You know, when you're sitting there and, oh, my God, and, you know, the creepy random-ass interviews throughout the course of the night that were just going off in all types of different directions. I love when Mad Dog Vachon said, "I'm not done talking."
That was good.
But, you know, you look at this random-ass opening tag. You got Too Cold Scorpio and Marcus Bagwell.
Yeah, against Bobby Eaton and Chris Benoit. Whew, wow. Yeah, this is Benoit, you know, coming over from Japan and whatnot, and Bobby Eaton's there, so they figure, okay, these two match up well. We'll just go ahead and throw them in.
It wasn't a horrible opening tag. Sad thing is this was definitely one of the highlights of the entire show.
Yes. The rest of it gets worse.
Yeah, it was kind of cool to go back and see Bobby Eaton and Too Cold Scorpio. Yes, we'll leave the other two out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I don't mean to lump in Bagwell with Benoit, but let's face it, it's not like Bagwell was any type of specimen when it came to in-ring work.
That is for sure.
Maybe the ultimate highlight of this show was Sid Vicious.
Oh, you mean this 35-second squash?
Fucking Van Hammer.
Wow.
What the?
Well, it looked like they were going to actually give this match more time than they just said, okay, hey, screw it. This is crap.
We've brought Sid in and we're going to fucking push him to the moon. And the crowd popped for Sid, and they should have popped for Sid. If Sid Vicious was in the wrestling business, Triple H could suck a dick, and all of you can get a dick. Sid Vicious would be the #1 star
in the entire business, by far. Okay. Especially 35-second matches like this. Yeah. Van Hammer. Who the hell is Van Hammer? He got me.
You know it's really bad when you go back and watch an old show and you legitimately have trouble remembering somebody. I legitimately did not remember Van Hammer.
Oh, I do remember him, but, you know, it's way, way back there in the memory. That's where it should be.
It should have been probably eliminated from the memory. As should have this next match. Now, you want to talk about random-ass fucking pairings. We're going to have 6 legends wrestle a tag match.
I never understood this. This is just stupid. I mean,
you got Dick Murdoch, Don Morocco, and Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Now, hold on.
You've got Morocco and Snuka on the same team after they had a legendary feud in, what, 83?
Yeah.
And you're going to put them together?
When a lot of people know that they had beef, and I guess to be fair, Snuka for a long period of time was a heel.
Yeah. I mean, in the old NWA days.
Right.
Know.
But this was just...
And also when he first hit the WWF.
Yeah, it's just, this was very odd. I mean, just the sight to me of going and watching Morocco and Snuka in the ring together. And then you've got fucking, you got Jim Brunzell, you got Blackjack Mulligan, and then Wahoo McDaniel.
Right, so you got Blackjack Mulligan, who is from Texas, going up against another Texan in Dick Murdoch. Why didn't they just put Mulligan in? See, it's one of these things. I think that what they did is that they took this hat and then they picked out names and said, okay, you're tagging with him, you're tagging with him, you're tagging with him. None of this makes sense.
The greatest thing about this is this is where egos come into play and backstage politics come into play. No contest, no clean finish. Not the first one of those we had. I'm not putting you over. I'm not putting you over, brother.
No way.
Thunderbolt Patterson and Brad Armstrong.
Thunderbolt Patterson, originally from Waterloo, Iowa.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Just like Ox Baker.
Yes.
Yes. And Brad Armstrong against Ivan Koloff and Baron Von Raschke. This one actually had a definitive finish.
It was entertaining somewhat, I think, but Thunderbolt Patterson, there's no way he should have been in the ring whatsoever. He was at least, 85 years old at the time of this match?
No, he's still alive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He was in his early 50s, I think, at that point in time.
Early?
Yeah.
No.
I guess this was supposed to be a showcase for Brad Armstrong.
Perhaps, I guess.
You know, the real ironic thing about this is, and I don't mean to poke fun at this, though, but out of the 4 people in this match, there's one of these 4 that's not with us anymore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Brad Armstrong.
Brad Armstrong, go figure.
I mean, I'm not even trying to poke fun at it. It's just how weird is that?
You bring that up, and yeah, wow, that's odd.
Yeah. Speaking of the next match, you had 2 guys that are still alive.
Which, this match made no sense either.
You got... Well, they were trying to build this up as this whole thing of, the promoters and the politics backstage over the years. And they had Johnny Valentine fucking commentary trying to hype this up. And he was bad, just like his son was bad on the mic. Dory Funk Jr. and Nick Bockwinkel. Now, if this was back in the 70s, this probably would have been a match that drew 20,000 people.
Could have probably got this over in the early 80s, like in Florida or something. That's fine. But here, no.
The former NWA champ versus the AWA champ.
Yeah.
And then you had Gene Kaniski in Funk's corner. You had Vern Gagne.
Vern Gagne, of all people, who him and Bockwinkel had this like 20-year feud, and you're going to put them. Oh my God.
And you know, as you're sitting there watching the match, and as time goes along, it was one of those things where people were bored. They wasn't connecting with the audience. They got to a point right at the end of the 15 minutes. The people cheered. I don't think they cheered for the match.
They cheered it because it was over.
They cheered because it was over, and they cheered because they respected the performers. And, you know, credit going to Funk and Bockwinkel for working a 15-minute draw here. But we didn't really need it.
No.
This is what we did need, and we needed more of this beginning early and often. Rick Rude and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff versus Dustin Rhodes and Sasaki. Now, I gotta be honest with you. When I think of this, I mean, you got fucking ravishing Rick Rude and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
Right. Okay. And then you got Dustin Rhodes and Sasaki. But don't you think that since Benoit was coming over for Japan, that maybe him and Sasaki should have been the tag team? But
well, Dusty wasn't going to have that.
In the spirit of randomness, here we go.
We're just spinning the wheel, making a deal. God, seeing Rick Rude and freaking Mr. Wonderful as a tag team was awesome.
That was good stuff. I'll give you that, but man,
the next match wasn't.
No.
Oh, fucking A. It's not bad enough that one company tried to push this guy, but then a second company came along and tried to push the prisoner.
Well, you know, in his defense, it wasn't actually supposed to be him in this match. It was supposed to be Scott Norton. Right. But for whatever reason, you know, Norton wasn't there. So then Sting had the unenviable task of having to go with the prisoner.
At least Sting won.
Oh, yeah.
At least Sting won.
Yeah, that's the only saving grace in this because, boy, this match sucked. Thank God after this they didn't use him very much.
The next match, your tag team title match. This is an example here of a very good tag match with some very good performers.
Yes.
One really good gimmick and
one really bad, shitty gimmick.
The fuck was with Dos Hombres? Why in the fuck did they wear masks?
I have no idea. You know,
and I don't care what the storyline reason was. Why in the fuck would you put Ricky Steamboat in a mask?
Yeah.
In a full bodysuit and mask on top of it, or close to it.
And his original tag team partner was Shane Douglas, and they were going to put him in mask too. And I don't know. But you know, hey, you had Pillman and Austin. You know, a good point in their careers, and you know, I mean, it was a decent match. But what was strange about it is that was right in the middle of it was a cage match.
Right.
Right in the middle of the card. And it wasn't one of those cages that they dropped down from the ceiling. They actually had to come out and build it, so there was a lot of dead time between the last match and this one.
And which they filled with crappy interviews and etc. But this is one of these examples of a pay-per-view. It's not by any means one of the worst pay-per-views you ever see. This match here, for the nostalgia value of going back to see the Hollywood Blondes, being able to see somebody like Ricky Steamboat, even in a full bodysuit and a mask, seeing a match like this, you know, these are the things that if you're going and you want to actually watch pay-per-view, there are some good memories, there are some good moments in here.
It makes for a great trivia question, and if somebody doesn't believe you, here you go. Here's Ricky Steamboat in a mask.
This is true. God, oh God, WCW used to be really bad.
Ouch.
Barry Windham versus Arn Anderson for the World Heavyweight Championship, huh?
Easily. Match of the night.
Yeah, it was an NWA World Heavyweight Championship,
Correct.
though, a little bit different. So.
Correct.
Yeah, you think that was the match of the night, though?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, easy. Yeah.
If it's not 1A, it's 1B. It's either that or the tag title match. I mean, this was again really good. Windham and Anderson were, you know, I felt they meshed very well in the ring together. Yeah, this is almost one of these things where maybe this match should have actually made a better show.
Oh yeah, should have easily closed out the show. One, because it had a true finish, and two, because it was just a better matchup between two guys who knew how to work.
And frankly, too, at this point in time, you know, these were guys that had more history with the company as opposed to the guys in our main event, which was Davey Boy versus Big Van Vader for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship.
But before we get to that schmoz, let's also remind the fans of one other thing that happened during this pay-per-view. Who was introduced as the fourth horseman? Paul Roma. Paul Roma. That happened on this pay-per-view.
To be fair, it did.
Paul Roma. The reason why I wanted to mention that because Arn Anderson's match, you know. But
now, where was Tully Blanchard in this? Exactly.
Busy.
You'll notice they only had 4 horsemen and Tully Blanchard wasn't there. Main event time, brother.
All right, here we go.
Yes, so Vader was very hot at this time.
Yes.
He was one of the few reasons to tune into WCW on a consistent basis. Davey Boy, you know, I thought he got a little bit of a better opportunity at times in WCW than he did in WWF. They were a little more willing at that point to put him in a main event spot.
Yeah, and they were willing to put a microphone in front of him too, which was
for whatever reason.
Anyway, this match, you know, it started out good, but by the time that I would say the last 5 minutes of the match, I was just begging for it to end. You know, just have a winner, just be done. But
because you look at Davey Boy, you look at Vader, and you look at two guys that you would think could have a main event caliber match that could close out the pay-per-view and give you a strong finish to an otherwise forgettable show.
But sometimes, you know, two guys, you know, on paper, they just don't work well. And this isn't that case. These guys just do not.
I mean, it's, you know, this pay-per-view does have some funny things to it, going back and watching a Missy Hyatt when she was obviously still a whore, but without quite so much plastic surgery. You know, seeing some of the people that you did see. But this is an example here of when you try to make legends your entire show.
I don't do it.
Or the majority of your show. It was just...
Don't do it.
Going back and watching it 20 years later, it felt like a train wreck.
If somebody ever came up with this idea, somebody show them this. And this
what about the Hall of Fame announcement, huh?
Oh yeah.
Poor Lou.
Yeah. Lou has had to come out for this, and you could kind of tell that he really did not want to be there.
Could you blame him?
No.
So is this a pay-per-view that our fans, our viewers, need to really go back and watch?
We did, so yes, they should watch it just because, yeah, I don't want to be alone.
We'll give you the Cliff Notes version of what you need to watch. You probably could watch the opening match because it's not bad. You probably could watch, we'll go with Rude and Mr. Wonderful as a tag team because it's Rude and Mr. Wonderful as a tag team. And that match wasn't terrible at all. Hollywood Blondes versus Dos Hombres, great match, you know, or at least a very good match. Windham and Anderson, another very good match.
And that's it.
You pretty much skipped the rest of the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Trust us on that one.
No, but I still think they should watch it just because we did. That way we're not alone.
You mean that, don't you?
I mean that.